time, I'd like to introduce Diane Wells and Amanda Hartzell from the auditing firm Plante Moran to give the presentation on our fiscal year 13-14 audit.
Taller, we're not as cute, and we don't have our gift to use a clean audit opinion. So first of all, I want to thank the board for the opportunity to be here tonight. We view this as the final close of our audit process, which starts in June, and we put about 400 hours into looking at testing balances, testing transactions, reviewing supporting documentation. We confer with outside parties, and we have discussions with various district personnel, and we test for certain compliance with laws and regulations. So virtually all our work is done here at the district, and prior to the start of the fiscal year, we start the process, and then Debbie and her team close out the June 30th year end, and then we come back in August and do a final check on all the balances. Just so you know, we as an audit firm have to adhere to some strict rules and regulations. In fact, we are audited once every 3 years as a part of our peer review process, and that's disclosed as a matter of public record. So the objective of a financial audit from independent auditors is to issue an opinion on the financial statements. So there are actually 4 things in your packet here. One is your main audit report, and as I said, I'm happy to tell you tonight that we did issue an unqualified, or what is known as a clean opinion. And that's really the highest level of assurance that we as auditors can provide on a set of financial statements. In addition, I want to comment that we found the condition of the books and records to be in very good condition, and in order for us to issue that clean opinion, we did not have to propose any adjustments to be made to the books and records as they were presented to us. So these financial statements are going to be submitted to the Association of School Business Officials, and Southfield is the only, has received, he's got the numbers. Southfield has received the certificate from ASBO for over 34 years. In fact, we are adding them up on the presentation, which is quite remarkable. So in order to meet that, to get that award, you have the district's financial statements go through a more extensive process. And just to give you a point of reference, I believe last year there were 4 or 5 districts in the state that received that award. Southfield by far is the longest running. So this year's financial statements, June 30, 2004, will be submitted once again for the ASBO award. We have every reason to believe that this will be year 35. So in addition to the main audit report, there's what's called the federal single audit, and that's where we test for compliance with laws and regulations. And that's an important report to you because the district received over $7 million of federal money. And this report goes to the state and also to the agencies that have awarded you those grants. And I'm happy to report that we found no non-compliance with any laws and regulations. So also that is also a clean report. I also, in your packet, is a letter to the board. There contains some informational items, talks about our audit process in a little more detail. And tonight there really isn't anything that I feel I need to bring to your attention with respect to that. We're going to go through some of the kind of key financial numbers in the audit report, but I thought, because you have a lot of information, additional information in your audit report, I found it interesting, some of the financial perspectives over the last 10 years. In fact, in the back schedule, some of those are reporting over the last 10 years. So from 2005 to 2014, a 10-year period, the the general fund revenue went from $141 million to $104 million, a decline of $37 million, or 26%, and that's not without accounting for any inflation factor. So, you know, in those 10 years, not only did your revenue decline, but also some expenses went up at a faster rate than inflation. So like healthcare premiums, we all know the story on that, and retirement costs, which the retirement percentage has doubled in the last 10 years. So as a point of reference, I found it interesting that although the revenue decreased 26%, the instructional expenditures, or direct classroom expenditures, only decreased 15%. And that's in a 10-year period from $71 million to $60 million. So this tells me that we know you've had to cut, but it also tells me that you've been able to keep those cuts out of the classroom to the extent you could do that. And I know you've had to make some tough decisions, financial decisions, and I commend you for stepping up to those. And I'd like to think it's over, but as we all know, costs continue to go up. And we're going to show a little bit here your fund balance over the last few years and where you're projected to go for 2015 on these slides here. But with that, I'm going to hand it over to Amanda, who Nate is sick today. Nate's been working with the district for, I think, the last 8 years. And Amanda's been working with the district for the last 4, so this was her opportunity to come here. So
as Diane mentioned, this is the certificate for the ASBO award from the 2013 financial statements. And then diving right into the numbers, so this is the balance sheet for the governmental funds. This is a snapshot of the assets and liabilities of the district as of June 30th, 2014. And you can see the general fund is the main operating fund of the district. And then we have a few other funds. The funded projects fund is where the grants are accounted for. And the special revenue fund includes the food service fund and the expendable trust fund. And then the debt service fund, this year only includes the 2007 debt service fund, as the 2003 and 2004 were closed out this year. So looking specifically at the general fund numbers, there's $33 million of assets, which just includes $26.7 million in cash and investments and $5.5 million in state aid receivable, which is the July and August state aid payments. The liabilities for the general fund are $12 million. And the majority of this includes $3.7 million in accounts payable and $5.9 million in accrued payroll, which is the payroll earned before June 30th but paid after year end. And then assets minus liabilities gives us fund equity, and as you can see, it's broken out into various categories. And I'll just go through each one briefly as a refresher. So the first one, non-spendable, is the amount for which cash has already been spent. So this includes inventory and prepaids, and you can see it's $50,000 for the general fund. Restricted is amounts that are legally restricted, so this would be things like the debt fund. The assigned amounts are amounts that are earmarked for use by management but are not legally restricted. So as of June 30th, there is approximately $825,000 of accumulated severance and compensated absence liabilities, $3 million in anticipated tax appeals, $417,000 in future capital improvements, and then $14.9 million of budgeted use of fund balance in the next year. So this is the amount that was adopted in the original budget for the 14-15 year. And then we arrive at total fund equity of $21 million. This next slide shows the combined statement of revenue and expenditures and changes in fund balance for the governmental funds. Looking at the general fund, we'll go into more detail, but revenue was $87.3 million, expenditures $93.2 million, and then factoring in the other financing sources gets us to a net change in fund balance of a decrease in about $5.9 million this year. Adding that to the beginning fund balance, again, we arrive at the ending fund balance of $21 million. So this slide shows the breakdown of where the revenue came from for the 14-year. Just to note, this is both the general fund and the funded projects fund. So total revenue was $94 million, and as you can see, the state foundation allowance makes up a majority of this amount, and this is based on the simple formula of blended pupil count times foundation allowance. For the 2014 year, the blended pupil count was 7,070, and the foundation allowance was 10,851, which arrives at approximately $76 million and also 76% of the total revenue for the year. So the main takeaway here is the foundation allowance makes up the majority of the revenue for the district, but there is very little control or influence that you have on that. This slide shows the breakdown of expenditures, again, for both the general fund and the funded projects fund. Total expenditures were $100 million, and as the school is in the service industry, it's not a surprise that the majority of expenses are salaries and benefits. Just for reference, the percentage of the total for salaries and benefits in the 2013 year was 74%, so it's increased 4%, and mostly that's due to the fringe benefits, specifically the increase in the retirement costs. So one of the questions we're often asked is how much fund balance is enough. And this slide shows one way to look at it by taking the fund balance as a percentage of the total expenditures. So as we saw in the first few slides, the general fund balance for the year was $21 million, divided by total expenditures of $93.2 million. It's approximately 22.5% of total expenditures for the year. And if you want to look at it another way, this fund balance of $21 million would fund the district operations for approximately 38 school days out of 171 school year. As you can see, this is well above the state average, excluding Detroit, of 9.6%. However, when we factor in the budgeted use of fund balance for the 15-year of that $14.9 million, it quickly declines to be a fund balance of 6.2% of total expenditures.
Add a comment on this one. So the state average is a year behind at 9% because we don't have this year's numbers. And from what I can tell from my experience with other districts, is that statewide average is going to go down. The districts that I've seen have had excess expenditures in this year, so that means a lower state average.
And then the last slide we have, this kind of shows the overall trend of the school districts in Michigan and the problem they're facing of declining student enrollment. As I mentioned, the 2014 blended pupil count was 7,070, which is a decrease of 1,483 students from the 2010 year. And relating this to foundational for the 14-year, this is a lost revenue of approximately $16 million. And not to end on a bad note, but this is something that we can't help talk about as it has a direct impact on the district's revenue. So that is all we have for you. We welcome any questions at this time.
Bring in more students, right? Yeah, that's about one.
So overall, like I said, good audit report, the books were in good shape, and in fact, we're here a month earlier than we have been in the past. As the case did an excellent job preparing for it, and I know that they pushed us to get it done earlier. And I'm glad to see you guys go away to be done with it, but they really have done a nice job.
If I want to stress that contrary to what you hear on your television sets, since I came on this board, the funding for our school has dropped almost to half of what it was 10 years ago. And it's only because of the genius of our superintendents, and I say that plural, and Ms. Trent, that we are able to hold our head above water. and also by the contributions of our staff, our remarkable staff who have taken a cut in their salaries so that our children could continue to get their good education. And I think that that is a disgrace, not for us, we haven't done it, but for the state of Michigan, that our teachers have to take a cut in order to support education. It's just a national disgrace and a state disgrace. And I want you to remember that next time you see one of those commercials on television about how well our schools are doing. Southfield schools are doing well, but it's only through the sacrifice of the people who work there.
Remember that on November 4th when you vote.
We'd also like to thank the partnerships that we've developed over the years, those individuals that support the schools here in Southfield.
Spread the word. Tell people what it's really like here. Tell them how good we are and why. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'd also like to have Kate Dankovich stand up so we can publicly thank her. Kate is our Director of Finance, and she does the lion's share of the work on this audit. And like Diane said, she pushed it up a month earlier, and they brought it home. So I just want to say thank you.